Well, after Samuel French published The Owl and the Pussycat and started licensing it, it was interesting because they took the professional rights as well as the amateur rights, which is now something which doesn't happen as often. But my first few plays, they did. And suddenly we found that every regional repertory company were doing it. I mean, it was extraordinary. There was a period of about 4 or 5 years where there would be about 6 productions every Christmas season. And that made me think, well, you know, I must do more. And also, this small company in Worcester, for whom that was the second play, they commissioned a further 5, I think. And then the artistic director moved from Worcester to another theatre in a place called Hornchurch and commissioned another 6 or 7. So for 13 years, I had a commission to do a show for Christmas time each year. And every single one of those has been published by Samuel French. Now, I suppose what I'm saying is that I'm not a dedicated writer, in the sense that the fact that I had this regular commission was incredibly valuable, because it made me do it. You know, I mean, there was a deadline, and so I did it. But then various other people started asking me to do things, other companies and commercial companies and touring companies. And so the Dahl connection began in 1990, I think it was, when a company that I'd never heard of, but they said they'd got the rights on the BFG, the Big Friendly Giant. Would I be interested in adapting it? And the BFG! And what's really nice is that I see my name in the same size as Roald Dahl. There you go. I turned it down 3 times because I thought that it was a bit of a rip-off. I thought this company, they'd got the rights because they thought it was a famous book, but they hadn't really thought of how it was possible to do it. And the one thing I don't want to do is to disappoint children. And I knew that they would expect, if they knew the book, they would expect to see a huge 22-foot-tall giant on stage with a little girl. And okay, you can use your imagination to a certain extent, but you can't totally cheat them. And it wasn't until the very last moment when I suddenly realized how I could do it. I was sitting having breakfast in a hotel, and I was on my way to tell these people for the final time, no, I'm not going to do it. And suddenly it came to me, and it was the whole thing about scale. And it was the fact that in the book, the first half, roughly, of the book is all about one little girl, one little human being, and lots of giants. The second half of the book is really about one giant, who's the BFG himself, and a lot of human beings who are the Queen and the various people at the palace. So I suddenly thought you could change the scale halfway through, so that by using puppetry, in the first half, the giants are played by human beings and the little girl is played by a puppet. In the second half, the human beings are played by human beings and the giant is played by a puppet. And by reversing that, it's a sort of, I don't know what you call it really, it's not a coup de théâtre exactly, but the audience aren't expecting it. And when they come back for the second half, perhaps they just think that the giant all the way through is going to be played by a normal-sized human being. Whereas suddenly we do bring on a huge puppet giant, which sort of satisfies that. And that was the beginning of me doing, 8 now Roald Dahls, which have been a great joy. And they're done all over the place, which is marvellous.